sort of almost next to where we stayed at the Wayside Inn, and I think Alan's got a cemetery for us. He loves his cemeteries.
Yeah, just be careful. That fence seems to be electrified and is live.
Alright, you tested it, did you?
Yeah, it's clicking.
Oh, right. Okay, gotta be careful. There's an electric fence. Oh, I can see a headstone. And Alan's got a sketch of this mountain, these slopes, done by, I think, a Victorian mounted rifleman, describing the conflict that took place here. Look at those big gum trees. It's the Australian influence again, isn't it? But, yeah, the cliffs here are steep mountain goat sort of terrain.
So this is a military and a local cemetery.
Yeah. Looks like some dwelling there. There's a few bricks. There's the remains of a wall.
Oh, it's a kraal.
Keep their animals in.
So you can just walk and stick it in the way.
Okay. Just my other pair of sunglasses somewhere along the way. So I fortunately have a backup pair that I've never lost. Oh, here comes a cow. Look at that. Here comes a cow.
Actually,
Yeah?
you don't want to bring your notes along so that you can identify that one West Australian grade.
Oh, yeah. There is a West Australian here. I was fixated on the cow. There's a cow, Alan. A cow.
Yeah. Yeah, an oxen.
Is that an Afrikaner? Or is that a different breed again? Doesn't matter. Just testing Alan's knowledge on cattle now. Right, so there's some military men and some civilians. Oh, the military men are separate, and it tells us this fella's from Germany, from Hamburg. Had he hung around, he might have seen the Beatles in Hamburg. Nonsense, he says. Look at these. These are crackers. Eh? Look at this. The fella from Scotland. Waterval Onder. In a railway accident near Alkmaar. What we found the other day was there are a lot of railway accidents, whether by explosives and sabotage or just train accidents happened in those days.
So this is after the war, but of soldiers who died in the hospital here. So there was a hospital here at Waterval Onder. And those are the actual graves of guys during the war.
Here's a fella from Adelaide, Fireman Barber. In the midst of life, we're in death. Cheery sort of sentiment. There's a Moffat. Alright, we'll move on to the soldiers. Canadian thing already, so put this on pause. Alright, so Alan just pointed out there's a West Australian in this cemetery that won a DSM, I think, which we'll find out about when I put this together. We've got Rice. He's the medic, British soldier unknown unto God. Lewis, he's with the Duke of Cornwall. I've already forgotten the Australian's name, was I mentioned. An unknown soldier, Owen, the Royal Rifles. Man, Barker from the Liverpool Regiment. Another unknown. What's this guy? Memory of, I can't see it. The Buffs. He's from the Buffs. Man, Lewis. Jarko. Heslop. Truss. Is that him? Oh, there he is. The West Australian Force. Trooper H Force. Trooper Edward Shipworth with the 2nd Western Australian Mounted Infantry wrote to Mr. Prinsep, the Under Secretary for Mines in Western Australia from Waterval Onder, on the 7th of September 1900 of a somewhat innocuous skirmish the unit had with the Boers 3 days earlier near Waterval Onder. It resulted in one DCM and most likely contributed to a DSO awarded to Western Australians. This was reported in the West Australian of the 24th of September 1900. Quote, "We relieved the 2nd Tasmanians here yesterday and I believe they've gone back to Mashadadorp. The scenery here is grand, we being at the bottom of a magnificent gorge nearly 2,000 feet deep with a lovely creek running down it, a boon which we heartily appreciate. 3 days ago we had a small scrap and we had the satisfaction to let 10 of our fellows get captured, including Mr. Oliver and Lieutenant Darling of the 1st Contingent. I very nearly got snapped myself. I was riding bang up to the farm where Mr. Oliver and the rest were when the ball commenced, and after the enemy had fired 2 or 3 shots at me, I retired at the double, or rather the gallop. I joined our company again and we commenced independent firing from a ridge about 1,200 yards off, the Boers replying fairly briskly. As it was getting rather late and we had to get back to camp by a goat track, which may be better imagined than described, we had to retire so as to get down the deep gorge before dark. Afterwards it turned out that we'd killed 1 Boer and seriously wounded 2 others. Our casualties were 4 wounded, amongst whom was Mr. Darling. He was hit slightly in the head. The Boers delivered the prisoners the next day and we gave a cheer as they rode into camp. Mr. Darling, one of the 1st Force, stayed in the hospital in Waterval Onder. Lieutenant H.F. Darling, Lieutenant Spencer A. Oliver, Trooper Harold Force, Trooper E. Butner, Trooper Monga, Trooper David McComb, Trooper A. Gelati are all listed as wounded at Waterval Onder. Force is listed as having died from his wounds on the 14th of September 1900. End quote. This was where Private Harold Force won his DCM. Lieutenant Darling later received DSO for good work in the field, and it is reasonable to assume that his behaviour on this occasion would have contributed to the overall good impression. He's a long way from home, isn't he? Hey? Trooper Force. we'll find out about his award in a moment, or when I put this video together. Alan's given me some notes taken from the book Johnny Boer, which is proving to be the preferred reading material for a holiday like this if you're insane enough to do what I'm doing. And he's from the Liverpool Regiment, 1901. If he'd only hung around another 60 years, he could have seen the mop tops in action. But this is far more serious. Steineker's horse, Nielsen. We covered them in Australia, didn't we? There's a few of these, or there's a lot of them, these private sort of horse. I'll ask Alan about it, he'll know. Oh, someone's got an opinion.
I'm just going to go and take a photograph of where I think that's happening.
Right. There's a Canadian, Sergeant Evett. Royal Canadian, FAs, dunno. Yeah, these private horse regiments. Talibadines. Oh man. Oh. The Warwickshire's Private J. Duper, by the look at it, Duper. Hobson, he's a Yorkshireman, 1901. The Welsh Regiment, you know, I think the guerrilla phase is winding down a little by December 1901. I think there's spasmodic fighting going on, but I think the Boers are starting to think, you know, this is a lost cause. Let's look at it from a different angle. We can't win it on the battlefield. Maybe we can win it politically. We saw that at the Kruger Hof, didn't we, where they asked Kruger's approval to take a new strategy to try and win their independence politically, which in the end was the way to go. Well, this is a great tomb.
So you want to take a picture of that first to remind you?
Yeah. So that's a sketch taken from the book Johnny Boer, but by a West Australian at the time. A fellow called Skipworth sketched it. Now Alan's hypothesis is the West Australian. Shut up. We're on that. Right.
No, West Australians would have been camped here behind those trees,
yeah,
fir trees, and they would have been camped just where that pillar is, red and white pillar is.
Oh yeah.
All right, and then the Boers would have been in the centre of these trees here. There's a low hill in the front. There's a high hill at the back, and in the middle there's a ridge there with quite a few trees on.
And this is where Force 1 is DSM?
DCM, yes.
DCM.
Distinguished Conduct Medal.
Graveyard. I can't remember what it's called, but it's a horse regiment. What we noticed in Australia were these, I call them private. There was Paget's horse, there was a Scottish horse. To me, they're like regiments that men could sign up for without officially being in the army. You could sort of sign up for a year or 6 months with one of these horse regiments. What's your understanding on them?
No, that's exactly the same. So the grave that you saw in there, the guy was from Steineker's horse.
That's it.
And Steineker was a German who operated in the area of the game reserve. So they're doing some research there. When I say game reserve, I'm talking about the Kruger National Park. And he raised a horse regiment to help the British against the Boers in that Lowveld area. And yeah, it's quite a famous regiment.
They were like mercenaries?
Yes.
Okay.
And Steineker himself paid them.
Right, okay. That's right. Right, that's clarified that, folks. This is the lead up, folks, to the Battle of Helvetia. It's all covered now with forest. but there were ruins in there. Alan's got some pictures from 20 years ago. Alright. Trading post.
Yeah.
So that direction is Dahlstrom, where we were yesterday. We got some footage of that. And over there is Waterval Onder, where we spent the night.
It's
Leidenberg. So this was a trading post between these important places.
And you can see the little trees that were coming through, and that's what they look like now.
Right.
Big trees.
Right.
And it's a shame, because this could be a very historic.
Yeah. There'll be some goodies in there.
Right, let's go to and have a look at the cemetery and the battle.
We're approaching the battlefield
Yes.
of Helvetia, which is a place in Switzerland apparently, not just a font in Microsoft Word. These look like, well, I think they're eucalyptus plantations. Wow.
Who was married to a forester, got interested in the Boer War in the mid-1990s. She's a New Zealander, and her husband, as I said, was a forester. He was instrumental in rescuing this site here, because what the foresters were doing was just digging up land. They wanted to plant trees, they were putting in fill, and he came across these graves and made sure that these graves were not touched by the foresters who were planting trees all around, as you can see. So what we're now on Middle Hill. This was the main camp here. This, you can see there's a land has been dug away there to get sand, to go and plant, to put the sand somewhere so they can plant trees, and this was really rescued. Otherwise this would have gone the same way as Helvetia trading post.
Right. And this is Ben Viljoen country. We remember Ben Viljoen was the young firebrand Boer commando leader. He didn't like taking rules, or he didn't like listening to the older, more cautious Boers. He was a go-get-em sort of guy, and he attacked, well, he was part of the attack of Belfast, remember? So this is beautifully preserved. And as Alan said, it's all forest around here. Can we call Ben Viljoen a loose cannon, maybe?
You could, yes. But you can see what they were doing here, digging away sand.
Yeah.
And really,
Yeah.
this has all been preserved.
Yeah.
Otherwise it would have been done.
Long gone.
Yeah. So that up there is Middle Hill, and where we're standing here, and over where they've dug away, was the main camp. Gun Hill over there, okay, the highest point you can see a beacon.
Yeah.
Okay, that's where the Lady Roberts was. We've just been to South Hill, past King's Copy. This was the extent of the garrison, the Liverpool garrison, with the 19th Hussars and the artillery.
Can I just say, Lady Roberts was a gun, a naval gun, right?
Yes.
And it was actually, what, loosely defended or slackly defended?
Slackly defended.
And the Boers captured it, but they couldn't use it, so they blew it up?
Yeah, they actually took it, but then halfway to Dahlstrom realised that they didn't have any ammunition. Also, it was December, rainy season. They couldn't drag it through the mud, and they really abandoned it there. They just destroyed it.
Very embarrassing for the British to lose a cannon named after Lord Roberts's better half, the Lady Roberts. Slach. van Helvetia. Slaughter or death? The death of
Slag is battle.
a battle of Helvetia.
Helvetia.
Helvetia. And these are Boer names.
Yes.
PTA Police? Is it?
Yeah, that's Pretoria Police and Johannesburg Police.
Kutsia. Beautiful cross made from a railway sleeper. Let's get a picture of that for Brian. He likes railways things.
So if you want to have a look here, these are the casualties. So the Liverpool Regiment, 10 killed, 1 died of wounds, 25 wounded, 181 taken prisoner. The 19th Hussars, 4 wounded, 29 taken prisoner. And the Royal Garrison Artillery, 1 wounded, 22 taken prisoner.
That's still a fairly significant loss to the Liverpool men. 10 dead.
Yes. So this, and Jerry, I've told you the story. I've told you the controversial part about it. I don't know if you want me to repeat it or whether you're going to tell it in Reader's Digest format.
We just want to clarify. We're not invoking a Masonic curse if we tell the story, are we? Nothing's going to happen to me.
No, all that I'm doing is I'm quoting a guy called Peter Goodship, who gave a presentation in 2000, which got me interested in this battle, where the Liverpool Regiment were partying from before Christmas, during Christmas and after Christmas, and Benviljoen decided to attack this post. What then happened is Kitchener had been in command of the troops here for less than a month. He had 2 big mishaps. One was Buffelspoort, where you have visited. The other one was Nooitgeracht, where you've also had a look at the battle site there, and then this one. And he decided to make a scapegoat of Major Cotton, who was in command of this garrison here, instead of Clements, who was a Major General, and Baden-Powell, who was also in charge of the Rietfontein camp, from which the convoy left and was attacked at Buffelspoort. And he decided to have Major Cotton court-martialed and kicked out of the army, which happened. Conan Doyle then got hold of, according to Peter Goodship, Conan Doyle got hold of Kitchener. They were both Freemasons, both I think from the same lodge, and said, listen, you've now made a scapegoat out of a lesser commander, and I'm going to just blow the whistle on you. They decided to call it a truce, and the story is that it was because of that Conan Doyle got his knighthood, to keep quiet about this. Now, Peter Goodship could never prove that. He wrote his book. He died before he could publish his book, and nobody has ever verified that story or not. But this incident of the Battle of Helvetia is certainly not in most of the records of the Liverpool Regiment.
So just to colour in a little bit, so Conan Doyle, the author of Sherlock Holmes, of course, but what Alan hasn't filled us in with is some of the seedy details, which is some of the officers were still in bed when the Boers attacked. Boers had to rouse some of the officers out of bed. Some of the men were so drunk that they couldn't be marched off to a prisoner war camp, or
They were marching them to Dahlstrom. So Benviljoen was getting them away from here so that they couldn't take up arms again. Just bearing in mind that Waterval Onder, there were troops, Machadodorp, there were British troops, so the furthest place that he could take them to was Dahlstrom, where there was no support for them.
Now this was over the Christmas New Year period. They'd been observed that the officers in particular, they had a fairly generous alcohol allowance out here, and the officers were enjoying tennis and probably, smoking cigars, and they thought they were fairly protected and the Boers would never attack around here, and they were caught with their pants down, in some cases literally, and there was hell to pay with HQ. Kitchener, I don't think, had much of a sense of humour, But as Alan said, it was embarrassing, because when Kitchener took over from Roberts, you can imagine, that's a beautiful cross made out of a sleeper, you can imagine that the spotlight was on Kitchener. So Roberts said, okay, well, I've done it, we've beaten them, it's all over, you just tidy up, finish off the paperwork, and then file it and come home to Britain. And Kitchener suddenly turns around and finds that the Boers are inflicting defeat after defeat on the British, and it's not over. And now the spotlight is on Kitchener. Why haven't you finished this thing yet? It's costing us money. Why isn't it over yet? And, you know, for someone like Kitchener and that big moustache, he would have been bristling with anger. And then he finds that these bloody mop-top Liverpudlians are all drunk and enjoying Christmas New Year. You can imagine some very harsh words on poor old Major Cotton. But yeah, I'm of an agreement. Cotton was just one of the cogs in the machine. You know, you can't put it all on his back. Right, I'm just going to get a photo of that cross. Have we got more to cover here? Or?
No, this is it. Yeah.